Once upon a time, in a charming little cottage, lived a girl called Cinderella. Her mother was dead, and she lived with her two elder stepsisters. Cinderella's sisters were beautiful and fair of face. There was Betty and Bertha, but because they were bad-tempered and unkind, their faces grew to look ugly. The ugly sisters made Cinderella do all the work in the cottage. She had to cook the meals, wash the dishes, polish the floor, mend the clothes, and lots more. They even made her clean the car. She had to polish it until it looked like new. And all the while, the ugly sisters sat in the garden and argued among themselves. Betty and Bertha made poor Cinderella work from morning till night without stopping. While Cinderella worked, the ugly sisters would just sit in the sunshine, tanning their beautiful bodies. But not only were they cruel, they were also jealous of each other's beauty. Cinderella was weary with all the work. She thought how nice it would be if she could sit in the sunshine too. Now it happened, while Cinderella was busy in the kitchen, a telegraph boy arrived at the cottage. He was a brave young lad, but when he approached the ugly sisters, his courage failed him. Each sister was sure that the telegram would be for her, but when Bertha realised whom it was for, she cast it aside. Cinderella was dismayed to read that her grandmother was very, very ill. But how can I go and see her? She thought. She lives miles and miles away. But then she had an idea. I'll ask my sisters if I can borrow their car. Now, although the ugly sisters didn't need their car, because they were unkind, they refused. Cinderella begged and begged, but still they refused. Poor Cinderella. Now she would have no choice but to walk. And so the next day, Cinderella set off in despair to travel the many miles to see her poorly grandmother. It was such a long way that Cinderella had to stop many times to rest. She thought how wicked her sisters were not to help her. They didn't even want her to leave the cottage, but she had slipped out whilst they were asleep. Oh, what lovely flowers, thought Cinderella. They'll help to make my grandma feel better. But she was so tired that she began to cry. She cried as if her heart would break. Then, all of a sudden, there appeared a very large white car. The chauffeur was just about to turn into the drive near where Cinderella sat when he saw her and wondered why she was crying. "What's the matter, my dear?" said the chauffeur. So Cinderella showed him the telegram. She told him that she had to get to her grandmother's house. "And so you shall, my dear," said the chauffeur. Now, in another part of the land, a young man called Alan Prince was setting off to drive to work, as he did every day. Meanwhile, the kind chauffeur realised that Cinderella was getting cold. "Put this coat round you, my dear," he said. Then off they went towards her grandmother's house. Now, Alan Prince was a wealthy bachelor who had become tired of his idle life. And so he had bought a small garage in the tiny village of Ashton-on-Sudbury. He'd inherited all his money, so this garage now kept him occupied. He always arrived very early because he enjoyed his work. The chauffeur drove Cinderella towards our grandmother's house. On the way, he noticed the petrol gauge. And so they called at the garage which Alan Prince owned. Whilst the tank was being filled, Alan Prince busied himself with all the little jobs which made his garage different from all the others. But when he cleaned the window of this particular car and saw Cinderella, he couldn't speak for astonishment. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. But his dream was short-lived. He'd never seen her before. He didn't know her name. but he knew he had fallen in love with her. And what is more, he determined to marry her. But she had gone. All that was left behind was the petrol cap. Throughout the land he proclaimed, "No one shall be my wife, but she whose car this petrol cap fits." Alan searched long and hard to find the beautiful girl who had called at his garage, but all was in vain.
Here is a newsflash. Ladies with white cars wishing to marry wealthy, handsome garage owner Alan Prince are now flocking to his garage in High Street, Ashton-on-Sudbury. This follows the announcement of his willingness to marry any woman owning a white car, providing that the petrol cap, which was left at his garage, fits that car.
As soon as the Ugly Sisters heard about this, they decided to have their car sprayed white. Then, these two deceitful women drove over to the garage right away. Bertha just knew the petrol cap would fit, and she was so excited at the thought of marriage that she just had to stop for a little tipple. Aubrey had been having a little tipple too. Bertha thought he was the most handsome man she had ever seen, but he obviously had no money. Bertha told Aubrey that they were off to meet someone with plenty of money. A handsome bachelor too. All they needed, she told him, was a white car, which they now had. Aubrey listened, but he didn't hear, because he was in a little alcoholic world all of his own. Bertha was very anxious for the petrol cap to be tried on. The assistant was very amused by the thought of it fitting her car. But the sisters grew more and more impatient. Betty just didn't believe that it wouldn't fit. She caused a terrible fuss. The assistant was still very amused. He was amused until he tried to remove his hand from the bodywork. So the Ugly Sisters went home in disgust, whilst the assistants began to wonder whether their boss had really ever seen the girl in the white car at all. Throughout the land, ladies like this one would do anything to get the petrol cap tried on. ages went to great lengths to obtain white cars. And still at the garage in High Street, Ashton-on-Sudbury, the search went on. The petrol cap was tried on every white car which called her for petrol. Alan Prince himself went to enormous lengths in his search. He was desperate to find this girl of his dreams. All he could remember was that she was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. Her eyes twinkled like pools in the moonlight. Her skin was smooth as silk, and her hair shone like spun gold. The only clue he had was the petrol cap. But where was this beautiful creature to be found? She was never really out of Alan's thoughts. Then, one afternoon, from his office, he saw a white car which seemed more familiar than all the others. Without waiting for the assistant to do so, he tried on the cap. And just as before, no, he tried it on again. It fitted. It did fit.
Darling, at last I found you.
Oh, you can have me any time, Ducky.
Well, we did tell you it was a fairy story,